Let's hit some anytime goal scorers as well as safe shots on goal for some of these goalies. Give me both teams to score in the first period. That's coming in at plus 185 compared to the over 1.5 that is at minus 120. Okay, you guys ready? Let's make some frickin' money. It's time for Puck It with Jo.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. It's Jo here at SportsGrid. It's time for Puck It with Jo over here on SportsGrid TV on X. Now, we had a loaded slate of games out there on the ice yesterday. We did see Celebrini and Lane Hudson go up against each other. Lane Hudson coming out nice and strong, able to get us that assist on the board, and we did see Celebrini with that goal. So definitely was a great game out there on the ice between those two if you watched that game. And now we have a couple teams on a back-to-back tonight. Good morning, Kev. And we have only 3 games out there on the ice. So we're going to break down all of these games. The games are nicely spread out tonight with the Boston Bruins and the New York Rangers, with the puck dropping at 7:10 Eastern. Then at 9:40 Eastern, we'll see the matchup between the Edmonton Oilers and the Chicago Blackhawks, or as I like to call it, the Battle of the Connors out there with Connor McDavid and Connor Bedard. And then we'll have the Montreal Canadiens taking on the LA Kings. Montreal coming off a win last night, breaking that losing streak, in the LA Kings coming in rested. Edmonton also off a win last night versus the St. Louis Blues that did go to overtime. So we'll see what they've got in the tank tonight, taking on a Chicago Blackhawks team that has covered the puck line versus Edmonton as of late. And then the Bruins and the Rangers in that 7 revenge. So let's get back into that first game with the Boston Bruins and the New York Rangers. That 7 revenge angle is there. We saw these teams match up over the weekend, and we did see the Boston Bruins get a big win, 6-3 win. JT Miller opened up the scoring for the New York Rangers, but it was a game where Boston ended up dominating. Pasternak was able to get the hat trick. JT Miller was so close with 2 goals in that game, but now returning here to the Garden, that last game was in Boston. We're seeing huge favorites here. $2 favorites here for the New York Rangers. Hard pill to swallow, right? But I do think that revenge factor in goaltending will come into play in this matchup. Plus 168 here for the Boston Bruins and a total of 6.5. Now the 6.5 is a juice to the under at minus 134, plus 110. If you do think we got a higher scoring one in this one, I do think the Rangers can put up their share of the goals, and that's why I'm looking at this. We got the Boston Bruins rolling in here. Corpuscello expected. They've won their last 2. They shut out the Wild last night, something I did not see happening. We know Marc-Andre Fleury was on the other side. Swayman stopped 35 shots on his goal last night in that game, absolutely standing on his head between the pipes. And now we got Corpuscello. I'm not sure if I have faith in Corpuscello. At one point last season, you guys, I thought he was going to turn into this goaltender that we could have a lot of faith in. I just don't see it here. Looking at the New York Rangers in the Garden here with Igor Shesterkin in goal, I do think they are the right team to be favored, but at these odds, you guys know I can't get there. This team has scored 4 or more goals in 6 of their last 9 games, so I do expect them to be able to hit Corpuscello hard. They're off a win on Sunday versus Vegas, a win on Sunday, and then they have Vegas at home in that win. It was a 4-2 win that they were able to get. When we look at them on deck, they do have the Pittsburgh Penguins on Friday, and then they have to go back out on the road for one last game before the Four Nations versus the Columbus Blue Jackets on Saturday. So they have that back-to-back loading. I do think even though they're off that big win at home versus Vegas, they can still come out here nice and strong versus the Boston Bruins. This is also a one-off road game here for Boston. And yes, they played last night at home in Boston. So now they have this one, and then it's Boston that has to take on Vegas on Saturday at home. So they have Vegas on deck. We see the Rangers coming off a game versus Vegas. We've also seen Boston struggle on the road. They've lost their last 3 road games. So looking at this one, where am I going to go? Which goaltender do I really trust? Is Igor Shesterkin. I trust Igor Shesterkin to really limit the Boston Bruins, but I don't trust Corpuscello, and I don't trust the defense here of the Boston Bruins on their second night of back-to-back. out on the road. I'm going to look for the Rangers to be able to put up those goals on the board. I do think they can get 4 goals in this one. Over 3.5 goals for the New York Rangers coming in at -110. Now, one thing you could also look here for the Rangers is they have started off games slow. They've lost their last 4 first periods. So if we do see Boston go up first in the first period, we're going to be able to get the New York Rangers at more of a pick'em style price here to be able to come back and get the win. And that's definitely where I will be going live betting this game. If I can get Boston up first, even if they just score quick and then we come right back in on the Rangers, I want them at a -110 pick'em style price. If it's a -140, I'm not touching the Rangers, but if I get a -110, I will. And of course, if I get better odds. Now, where am I looking for the points to come in this game? You guys know I like the Rangers. I like their team total over 3.5. I expect 4 goals out of them. Could it be a tight battle? Yeah, it could be a 4-3 style battle. So if you want to take the Boston Bruins +1.5 on the puck line, I understand why. I'm just not going to get there. I'm going to look at a couple of player props instead to put my money. We have seen the Boston Bruins cover that puck line in their last 6 games on the second night of back-to-back. So this has been a strong suit for them. They carry that momentum in, and that's kind of why I'm thinking they should carry the momentum into the first period. The Rangers have started off slow, and then we can come back in on the Rangers for the win. And that's what I'm hoping to get. Now, looking at the Rangers players here, Panarin has been hot, 5 goals and 6 assists in his last 10 games. So I do think Panarin here for the New York Rangers is definitely a playoff. I also think you look here at Adam Fox. I think he can get those points on the board as well. And then we got to go with JT Miller in that last game versus Boston, his first one. Back in a Rangers uniform, we did see 2 goals out of him. So I do think JT Miller comes to play in this. Now, we can't deny David Pastrnak on the other side to get those points on the board as well, with him having the hat trick last time versus the Rangers. I do think Igor Shesterkin comes out nice and strong now and limits him, but I do think a point is coming. So Pasta in the last 10 games, 8 goals, 13 assists. Remember, the hat trick did come versus this team. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup between these two. Trevor, thank you so much. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you for being here every day with us. So 2 dogs are barking. There's definitely some dogs barking today. Let's look at the next game, the Chicago Blackhawks at home. Now, there are a big dog here versus the Edmonton Oilers. Chicago sitting at +225 here. The Edmonton Oilers -275 and a total of 6.5. 6.5 used to the under at -118. And like I said, this is an interesting one because we have seen Chicago cover that puck line versus Edmonton. +1.5 on the puck line for the Chicago Blackhawks coming in at -108. -1.5 for Edmonton at -112. This could be a live betting situation where you look to come back in on the Chicago Blackhawks when we're getting even more value on that puck line. We might even get a 2.5. We know Edmonton can start off these games rather hot, get those goals, and then allow opponents to keep fighting back in them. Connor Pickard is expected in goal tonight for the Edmonton Oilers, as they are on that second night of a back-to-back. They're also in a very interesting spot. They're coming off a hard game versus the St. Louis Blues, one that went to overtime, one that was defensive and hard-hitting out there, 3-2 win for them. And then we look, it's Wednesday. Who do they have on deck? The Colorado Avalanche and Nathan McKinnon. I do think it's definitely going to be a look ahead when they're taking on the 8th team in the Central here in the Chicago Blackhawks. Connor Bedard and the Chicago Blackhawks, we know, are nowhere near the skill level of Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers with Leon Draisaitl, Corey Perry. The list goes on of the playmakers on this team, Jeff Skinner, Hyman. But you look here and you look at the situational spot, and we do have a Chicago team that has been able to keep it tight. We've seen Edmonton fail to cover the puck line in the last 5 in Chicago. They have won 7 of the last 8 meetings, but they squeak out these wins in 1-goal games. So I do think it's worth looking at Chicago plus the 1.5 at -108, but I want more value, guys. This will be a live betting situation for me on that puck line. If Edmonton can go back up first, I want to come in on Chicago, or if they get up at any point, I will be coming back in on the Chicago Blackhawks. Now it's going to be a lot to ask for this team to really dig deep and battle out Edmonton here. We know that empty netter situation could come into play. So definitely not my favorite bet of this game. But I think you look at player props and you look at that first period. I'm expecting those goals in the first period. What would be beautiful if we saw Edmonton go up 2-0 in that first period, and then we saw Chicago come back and win it, because we're going to get Chicago at what, plus 800, plus 1100 at that point if Edmonton's up 2-1 or 2-0 in that first period, and then we see Chicago fight that battle back. So I would love to see it. Not sure if it happens, but I do think Edmonton will go up by 1 goal. We should be able to come back in on Chicago with the sprinkle on that plus 1.5 on the puck line for better value, because right now it's -1 away. I do think we should see over 1.5 goals in the first period. I like that bet as well. It's coming in at -128. You know, I really do think it's worth a sprinkle for situational spots here on the Chicago Blackhawks to get the win, just with Edmonton with Edmonton off that overtime win, and then with the Avs on deck. I don't love the spot. I do think we could also see something that I love betting, the goal in the first 5 minutes. I think this one starts off hot out of the gate. Chicago home off a road trip that wasn't successful. They've got a couple of games on deck before the break, and you know, Connor Bedard versus Connor McDavid and Tyler Bertuzzi out here. You're going to see Chicago digging really deep in this one. So the goal in the first 5 minutes coming in at plus 174, especially when you saw that resistance last night by the St. Louis Blues defensively on Edmonton. I expect Edmonton to probably come out and score this one first, but Chicago to come out aggressive and allow those mistakes in the neutral zone, where then you see Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl run away with this, and he hit Peter Mrazek straight out of the gate. So the goal in the first 5 minutes, I love tonight, plus 174. Over 1.5 goals in the first period, I do think is in play at -128. Tyler Bertuzzi, 17 goals and 11 assists on the season. Connor Bedard has been strong, so I would look at Tyler Bertuzzi and Connor Bedard. They're parlaying them for their point. On the other side, you know it's Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. Leon Draisaitl in the last 10 games, fantastic numbers here at 6 goals and 9 assists. And then when we go further down, looking at Leon Draisaitl for his shots on goal, he has been so strong at getting those shots. But I want to look at Corey Perry here. Corey Perry promoted to that top line, and promotion to the top line in that game versus the Leafs, he was able to get 3 shots on goal in that, as well as a goal in that game. I do think he brought that flow into the game yesterday versus the St. Louis Blues. 4 shots on goal. Here for Corey Perry, if he is playing like he has in those last 2 games, he's going to be able to hit Peter Mrazek. So right now on FanDuel, Corey Perry for the anytime goal plus 390. I'm going to go there. I do think Corey Perry should be able to score in this matchup. So it should be a great day between these two out there on the ice, the battle of the Connors. It will be interesting to see if Connor Bedard can make an impact tonight. Jamie rolling with the LA Kings, the New York Rangers, and the Edmonton Oilers. You're going to parlay those together, Jamie. Let me know what value you're getting if you are. The Blackhawks 17-2 to the over 1.5 in the first period. Yeah, Chicago really either has been allowing these goals, Kev, or they've been helping contribute to that over. Not many games where we've seen Chicago get all 2 of those goals themselves, but there has been a handful that I can remember where Chicago's come flying out of the gate. A lot of opponents underestimate this team, and they come back in that second and then tend to lock them down. Chicago in the first period actually might be an interesting look here to get the win, taking them plus 0.5 goal on that puck line if you're getting value, or a sprinkle on the money line. I'd rather sprinkle the whole game, especially if they go down. The Rangers, Mika Zibanejad, he needs to really step up. Under 6 at plus 750. Let's go. Okay, Mika Zibanejad, I like him for the goal tonight. He needs to really bring that, Vinny. So I love where you're going there, the under 6 and the Rangers for the win. Plus 750. Hell yeah. You know you had me as soon as you said plus, right? Like plus 750, sign me up all day. I'm going to sprinkle on that, Vinny. So let's cash on that parlay tonight. The Montreal Canadiens are then taking on the LA Kings. Now, the LA Kings definitely have a huge rest advantage here. They're off a win on Saturday versus the Carolina Hurricanes, who are out on the road. They got that win 4-2. Now, this is the first game home off a 5-game road trip. Normally not a spot that I love to bet a team. They went 1-4 on that road trip, though, so you know this team wants to get their feet back under them here on home ice. This team has been so strong at home. Fading the LA Kings at home this season has cost you money. They're 15-3-1 at home, sitting 3rd in the Pacific, winning 10 of their last 11 home stats games. Now, Montreal broke that losing streak they were riding. What, a 5-game losing streak going into last night. They were able to get the win over the San Jose Sharks 4-3. This is their second night of a back-to-back. They're sitting 7th in the Atlantic, 12-13-1 on the road. Now, Dobbs is coming into net for them. He's been absolute fire, and everyone's been waiting for the wheels to fall off for this kid, but it just hasn't happened. 5-1-1 on the season with a 2.10 goals against average and a 927 save percentage. And then on the other side, we have Darcy Kemper. Darcy Kemper has been lights out this season, 15-6-6 with a 2.16 goals against average and a 920 save percentage. Great goaltending on both sides. We've seen the Montreal Canadiens as a dog cover the puck line in 7 of their last 10. They've been playing in really tight games. We know this team was able to dig deep and went on that long winning stretch, getting some wins over some pivotal teams. The last time they faced the LA Kings, though, was all the way back in October, and they lost that one 4-3. So the Kings were able to cover the puck line in that game, and they won the last 7 meetings versus Montreal. So do I think Dobbs and Kemper can keep this lower scoring? Because if this is a lower scoring game, like the LA Kings want to play in, I do think Montreal can cover that puck line. Montreal sitting here at plus 202 on the money line, minus 250 here for the LA Kings, but that puck line is where I want to look. If you think LA is going to win this 3-1, laying the 1.5 with the LA Kings is plus 104. You're getting value there. I do think, though, Montreal covers the puck line. So I'm looking at a 2-1, 3-2 style win here. If the LA Kings can get the win, this is a hard spot for them, right? And Montreal should bring some momentum, but at the end of the day, Darcy Kemper versus Dobbs. This Dobbs kid has been so hot, but Darcy Kemper is the goaltender I do trust more. I expect both defenses to step up. Both of these offenses have been struggling to find the back of the net, and then Montreal's on the second night of a back-to-back. So I think if Montreal has the ability to win at any point during this game, first period here, because the LA Kings are coming in off of rest on Saturday, they could be a little rusty to start here on a Wednesday evening. And then we do have a Montreal team. Second night of a back-to-back, these teams can flow with momentum into the next game, especially in a game that was highly exciting and high scoring last night. So I could see Montreal winning the first period, and then if you like the LA Kings coming back in on the LA Kings just to get the win, at that point you should be getting a lot better value. But I do think Montreal keeps it tight, and if the LA Kings go up first, I will be coming back in on Montreal with better value. Plus 1.5 right now on the puck line, coming in at minus 128. I do think it's still bettable for me at that price. I would have loved to see plus money with the Montreal Canadiens, because we know when we really compare these teams, third in the Pacific, 15-3-1 at home for the Kings versus the 7th in the Atlantic team sitting 12-13-1. It really doesn't sit easy taking the Montreal Canadiens plus 1.5. I don't feel overly confident about it, but I do think this team has the ability to keep it tight. We've seen those trends. We've seen lower scoring defensive battles between these two, and that's what I think we're in for. So the best bet, probably that under 5.5 in case one of these teams gets the empty netter up 2-1, and then we see that 3-1 win and we get the empty netter. And whichever way, if you're on the favorite here or the dog and the Montreal ends up winning, then you're on the right side. But the under 5.5 at minus 102, I think is your best bet of this game. I love what we saw out of Lane Hudson, and you guys, with those points last night, he now has 40 points. So he's the fastest, or the second fastest defensive player in history to reach 40 points. So Lane Hudson, I actually want to look at what his Calder odds have moved to now, you guys, because I think it's definitely worth looking at him for the Calder. We know, okay, Celebrini's at minus 230 and Lane Hudson coming in at plus 230. Celebrini gets all the news and all the highlights because he's such a flashy young offensive player out there. He is incredible with the puck, so don't get me wrong. I love what we see out of Celebrini, but at a minus 230 value, you just can't bet Celebrini here. But Lane Hudson here of the Montreal Canadiens at 40 points, he has been so strong out there for the Montreal Canadiens. Definitely worth a look. Now, he moved to plus 230. Both of these guys were minus 160 and plus 160. We haven't seen much movement in Dustin Wolf. Dustin Wolf was right around plus 1,100 just about a week ago. He's now sitting plus 1,200 to take the Calder. And then you have this Dobbs kid in from Montreal. Hard to deny what he is doing right now. You're really, really, really long shot at plus 10,000 for Dobbs to get it. But you've got a lot of players in between him and the colder, and I do think it will come down to Celebrini and Lane Hudson out here. I would love to see Dustin Wolf be able to get it, but I think it's asking too much for a young goaltender to be able to win the colder. So if you're looking for player points in this one, even though I'm liking the under between Montreal and the Kings, you know Campaign Kopitar is where I go. Fiala has been so strong for the Kings as well. And then when we look here at the Montreal Canadiens, Caulfield, you can look at Lane Hudson. That is where I would go to. You could also look at Patrick Laine, but I want to look at Lane Hudson to continue to roll strong and Caulfield tonight. So just going to take a quick look at your comments, guys, and then we'll jump into the recap. Yeah, we should see an under. These teams just battle it out, lower scoring game. Your Wild will set the record for goalless streak, 120 minutes and counting. Oh, man, you're Wild. I still can't believe they got shut out in that game last night. That was absolutely crazy. You parlayed the Kings a puck line, New York Rangers puck line, Oilers money line, and the over along with two NBA players. $5 for two NBA teams for $2.74. Okay, let us know which NBA teams you are circling, which ones you are looking at tonight. I'm really looking strong at the Golden State Warriors to come out versus the Utah Jazz to win their third meeting this season. Draymond Green back out there on the court. Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins, I think they're in for a big night. So that's where I'm going in the NBA. Still got a couple to break down. But you guys, let's jump into the recap. I really hope you guys have a beautiful Wednesday. It is freezing and snowing here in YYC. So if you are in the YYC area, stay warm. I heard there's snow happening in like the New York, New Jersey area too. So wherever you are, stay warm. If you're in Australia, like my brother and my dad, enjoy that beautiful beach weather today. So I know they're up for it. Recap time. We're going to look at the Boston Bruins and the New York Rangers, the Edmonton Oilers and the Chicago Blackhawks, and then the last game out there on the ice is the Montreal Canadiens versus the LA Kings. So recap for all of these games. We'll kick it off with the Boston Bruins and the New York Rangers, puck dropping here at 7 o'clock Eastern. Korpisalo versus Igor Shesterkin. I do not have trust in Korpisalo, the Boston Bruins, on the second night of a back-to-back, and yes, they did just get the win on the weekend versus the New York Rangers 6-3. But I do think the Rangers at home in the Garden really can do a revenge game here and get the win. I'm going to look at the New York Rangers to be able to score on Korpisalo. I think that's the best bet. Over 3.5 goals here for the New York Rangers. I'll also look at Panarin, Adam Fox, and JT Miller for their points parlayed together. And then on the other side, going to look at Pastrnak to continue to roll hot. Pastrnak for his points tonight. Boston, I just don't trust out there on the road. They've lost their last 3 on the road. And I think this Rangers team is so hungry to get the win tonight in the Garden and have that revenge. The Edmonton Oilers versus the Chicago Blackhawks, Connor McDavid versus Connor Bedard. I'm looking at this one for the Chicago Blackhawks to help with this total and help push us over. We know Connor Pickard has been strong in goal, but I do think the Chicago Blackhawks are going to come out looking to really put the screws to Edmonton right away. We've seen this team be able to score in that first period and to allow those goals to come in. I believe the over 1.5 in the first period is a great play here, coming in at -128, even though we have to lay the juice. But what I absolutely love is a goal in the first 5 minutes. Goal in the first 5 minutes. You guys know it has me with that plus money at +174. The Edmonton Oilers coming off that hard game versus the St. Louis Blues where they got the win last night in overtime should come out. And against the defense here of Chicago, find it easy to light the lamp on Peter Mrazek. I expect them to score first. When they score first, I want to come back in on the Chicago Blackhawks +1.5. On that puck line for more value. The players I'm circling here, Connor Bedard and Tyler Bertuzzi for the point parlay for the Chicago Blackhawks. And when we look at the Edmonton Oilers, Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid for the point parlay is not going to give you much value, but if you throw in Corey Perry for the point tonight, I think it will give you better value there. But I love Corey Perry more than anything here for the anytime goal. Promoted to that top line, he has been stepping up. Since doing so on the weekend versus the Maple Leafs, we saw a goal and 4 shots out of him, or I believe 3 shots out of him in that game. And then in the game last night versus St. Louis Blues, he was firing away at goal, 4 shots on goal. Expect him to hit Peter Mrazek tonight. Corey Perry for the anytime goal at plus 390. And then the Montreal Canadiens versus the LA Kings. I do think goals are hard to come by with this goaltending matchup. I love the under 5.5. Jobs here has been on fire for the Montreal Canadiens and Darcy Kemper. Definitely the goaltender I have more faith in. I love what he brings to the table, especially at home. The LA Kings are so strong at home on the season, but I do think Montreal can keep it tight. I'm hoping the Kings can score first so I can come back in on Montreal plus the 1.5 at a better value. Right now, going into it's minus 128. I think if I like Montreal right now, it would be a sprinkle on the money line before I took that puck line, but live betting that puck line is where I do want to go. The under 5.5, I though think is the best bet. Campaign, Kopitar, and Fiala at Parlay for the point here for the LA Kings, and then looking here at the Montreal Canadiens, Lane Hudson, Cole Caulfield, I will parlay for the point, but you could also add in Patrick Laine. But you guys, that is the recap for today. Thank you so much for joining me here on the daily on Puck It with Jo on SportsGrid TV on X. I appreciate you guys so very much. Without you guys, this show would not be possible. So only minus 23 Celsius here today, and oh wait, that's exactly what I'm seeing out of my window. I hate to see what the wind chill is today. So not lovely at all. So 27 degrees Fahrenheit for you, Kev. That is a cold day, cold and ice. So you guys make sure you be careful out there in these elements, careful out there on the roads, because I know in my area, the roads are so slick. So you guys, all the best in all of your bets. Let's make some freaking money to get things going hot around here in these cold months of February. But tomorrow we'll be here, loaded slate Friday, and then we've got Saturday. And we've got a couple games on Sunday before the big game. So make sure you stick around, join. And if you just want to hit that recap, of course, hit that recap and get those best bets nice, quick, and fast. But you guys, all the best in all of your bets. We'll see you tomorrow here at noon Eastern.